Yeah.
Let's see if Bobby Evans can help us figure some things out. Willard and Dibs, 95.7 The Game, and thrilled to have the former Giants exec with us here to talk it out a little bit. Bobby, good afternoon. How you doing?
Hey, we're doing good, guys. How's it going?
It's going well, except for it's not going so well. The San Francisco Giants, they went about it in a new way this offseason, and so far it's still not working. I don't want this to be a leading question, but so tell me if it's an unfair way of asking this, but what are they doing wrong, Bobby?
Yeah, I mean, there's some disadvantages always to letting the market come to you a little bit, which, in this free agent market, it wasn't a robust market. I mean, you had the premium guys, which you saw what they got paid and where they went, and that's hard to argue with. Those are the premium guys. But then after that, there wasn't as much of a middle market as before. And when you sign guys late and who don't get a full spring training, sometimes when the market comes back to you late like that, it can be a rough go. And it's also in terms of building a clubhouse rapport. I mean, you spend a lot of spring training anticipating what your role is going to be, anticipating what your team's going to be like, and then teammates come in later in the spring. And there's been times where we've made trades late in the spring that, for good or for bad, it can be a little bit disruptive initially towards acclimating your guys in the clubhouse as well as the new guys to the clubhouse. And so some of those things happen, but you're also talking about a division where, there's some powerhouse, teams in the National League, not to mention, of course, the obvious Dodgers and Padres, but the Braves and Phillies, and there's just a lot of competition for those 90-plus win teams. I mean, it's going to be a hard road, for anybody. And when you have pitching that is younger, you're going to have to go through some bumps along the way. When you have guys that missed the spring, there's going to be some bumps along the way. And obviously, with transition from a reliever to a starter role, is going to have its bumps along the way. So the pitching. The first half of the year is going to have some bumps, but then you're also going to have some bumps in the second half because the younger guys aren't as stretched out. But you've had a drop down, lockdown bullpen, for several years here. It's not so much that way right now, and that keeps you from winning the games you're supposed to win. The offense has been a little bit behind its potential and what you expected, and even staying healthy is a challenge. And I remember, my last couple of years there, we had 2 years in a row with 1,000+ DL days, and that's a crazy amount of time where the guys that you plan to be on the roster are not active. And that's happening right now here in early May. And you got to understand that you're going to get your bumps along the way when that happens.
1,000 days. You blew me away with that number, Bobby, because it feels like we're already approaching that with this Giants team with all the guys they have on the IL right now. So what's the fix for this team? Is it just to try to, hope the young guys can carry the water for now and then you get healthy when you get some bodies back? Or is there a bigger fix that you're going to have to face with the Giants team if this doesn't start to go better?
Yeah, I think you do have to depend right now on the young guys coming up. We've been there where sometimes the fill-ins actually, just have energy around them, and they bring energy to the veteran guys that have been already active on the roster, and it can really boost a clubhouse. It could give you some energy. It could give you some not only energy but also the results you're looking for. And it may not be as long lasting as the veteran guys that when they come back, but it gives you at least an initial boost. But that's why the coaches and the manager they're ultimately Bob knows how to do this. I mean, you've got to keep your guys motivated when things aren't going well. I remember Boats pulling the guys into the room when a big injury happens and talking through it. Hey guys, this is a chance for us to make ground, not lose ground. We understand we're going to be behind the eight ball without this guy or without that guy, and that's part of what's made Bo Mel successful, I'm sure. And he'll pull the guys together. You've got veteran players in there that know how the bumps and bruises go, but you're also in a tough stretch here, and the road trip didn't do him any favors, right? I mean, that was a rough trip and some tough places, and now you come home and you've got the Dodgers, and they have won 2 out of 3 the last 2 series, so things aren't all bad, but they're not where you want them to be, and you're going to also have more battles now. You lose your leadoff guy who's been very successful, and not only offensively but defensively, and that pulls a little momentum out of your club. But that's why you bring up a Matos and you bring up a Elio Ramos and you let those guys go and you give them a chance. You take the bumps, but you hope that that'll be some long-term fruit.
Bobby Evans with us on Willard and Dibs. Bobby, I certainly understand when you're an executive of a team, you really have to take with a grain of salt what the fans think. I understand that. However, that's who you're trying to entertain. When you're building a team, how much are you thinking about entertainment?
Well, we worked really closely. To Brian's credit, we worked very closely with the business side of the organization, led by Larry himself. I mean, Larry was always attuned to what he felt the fans needed. Peter was very attuned to that. Even Bill Newcomb, very attuned to what was needed, and they collaborated with us. They knew what our options were, what our thresholds were, what our concerns were from an offensive standpoint or a pitching standpoint. But also, they wanted to make sure that there was a team that would put guys in the seats or put people in the seats, and so that collaboration, I think, is what made us great. It's not that Brian and I knew what was going to entertain fans, but I think that we trusted the business side to know what that looked like, and I think that's a real important part of this. And you got to work together.
When you start to think about the entertainment side of it, and you look at a pitching staff that's got Harrison and Logan Webb and a great closer with Camilo Doval, is it such a thing with the Giants that you should maybe go for more pitching and defense, knowing that the ballpark is one that's not so conducive to hitting?
Yeah, I think that was really part of the magic that we had. We recognized, all those years trying to put great offensive teams together, and we're very successful at that to a point with Bonds as the centerpiece, 2000 being probably one of our best years offensively in the new ballpark. But even still, 100-plus wins in 2003. But to get the results that we wanted, which was a championship, we just looked at ourselves and said, how are we going to repeat the offensive presence of a Barry Bonds and a Jeff Kent in the middle of the order that ultimately couldn't get it done without having the other elements of pitching and defense? And we focused on that, and that was really Brian's claim, is that we've got to focus on this and let the offense come. And you look at some of those World Series championships, even with the power that we had, it was really guys that knew how to spray the ball to all fields and manufacture runs where the pitching and defense carried us.
You're listening to 95.7 The Game, KGMZ FM and HD1 San Francisco, an Odyssey Sports Station, always live on the free Odyssey app, Twitch, and YouTube. Powered by First NorCal Credit Union. Upgrade your savings dividend. Open a First NorCal first-class money market. Today we're talking with Bobby Evans here on Willard and Dibs. Bobby, what is one piece of advice you'd give to an executive that's trying to rebuild a farm system?
Believe in your guys. You got to believe in your guys. You've got to believe in your staff, your coach, adults.
At what point do you, fish or cut bait might be too strong, but when do you, as a front office person, have the ability to assess a guy going through the minors and be able to see if he's going to have what it takes to be successful in the major league level?
Yeah, it's our job in the front office in collaboration with our player development people and our scouting staff to know our people best. And it doesn't mean we won't take risks, doesn't mean we won't make deals, or doesn't mean we won't be too quick to trigger on guys, but we're ultimately responsible for knowing our guys better than any other club. And it's really a matter of knowing the right time to pull the trigger on a call-up, the right time to pull the trigger on moving a guy down, moving a guy up, or moving a guy out, making a deal, trying to get better. So there's always you're not going to be able to make trades without giving up quality talent to get quality talent, but you also want to make sure at the end of the day, you know your guys better than anybody.
Bobby, how long do you need before you know? Like, how many at-bats does a guy need in the bigs before you're starting to make an assessment?
Yeah, I think you should know long before they get there. There really shouldn't be any surprises in the big leagues. Not that there's not still surprises, but if you're doing your best work, you're not going to be surprised about who is a chance guy versus a guy is a sure thing. And a chance guy, you're not going to go too long with a guy that just was a chance guy and he's scuffling. You're not going to be too long to make a move. But when you have a sure thing guy and you bring him up, then you need to bring him up and give him as many possible at bats as possible. But there's a lot more rushing going around in baseball than there ever has been. There's getting these young guys to the big leagues is going to test them, and so you really test your scouts, you test your player development people, and really put your major league staff in a player development mode. And that's a hard part of this. And But ideally, you don't bring up guys that are sure things until you feel like they're ready, so you can give them a long rope.
Bobby, you signed Marco Luciano in 2018, right?
That's right.
Yeah. Are you surprised he's not up yet? What do you think's going on there?
Well, I think they're looking at the whole package. I think defensively, whether he's too big to play shortstop or whether there's a better position for him, his arm's got to do, pitching and defense has got to do its part. I think that they felt that they had to give him more rope, and he's young, so I get it. But with a surefire guy like that, you want to make sure when you bring him, you can keep him. And so I think that they're biding their time, and I think it may be for his best interest just to give him that time. I mean, it's hard, as a fan, and certainly someone that was a part of his getting signed to not see him there. But I have to trust the process and understand that at some level there's a time and place, and hopefully when he comes, he stays.
With Matos and Ramos now up for at least the time being, how much time do they need up here with the big club before you can really make a determination on whether or not they should stay and they should play a bigger role in this season?
No, I think as long as you can keep them there, you're better off. Just the longer you can give them, you've got to protect them. If at some point they start to scuffle and they need a break, maybe it's a couple days off, but you got to keep them in the lineup. And if they're not going to get regular playing time, then they shouldn't be here. But as much as possible, you want to give them as long a rope as possible. They've really earned it, and they should be ready to go.
Bobby, thanks, man. Phenomenal stuff. Actually, before you run, what would you tell a current Giants fan who's just, I don't know, fed up?
Yeah, I mean, this isn't easy. This is a tough game, and there's going to be the mosaic that Marty Lurie describes, and we're watching part of the mosaic right now. And I hope that there's a lot more fun to watch. But we're in a tough time with a tough division, and we're not where we want to be. And so, unfortunately, we're just going to have to apply patience and be loyal to the best young players that we have, and hope we get the results in the long run that we deserve and the fans are expecting. But it's nothing we can do right now. We've got to wait, watch, and listen.
Bobby, great to have you, man. Thank you so much for coming on.
All right, my pleasure. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. There it is. Bobby Evans, former Giant.